I've got it. I'm live and I forgot to hit the. Jesus. I forgot to hit the intro. Please hit the intro. Where's the intro?
I'm done trying to live up to others' expectations. Family, society, class, race, sex, or religions. It's time to break free from the isms that make us feel like we're in prison. I'm ready to be unleashed as fuck. I'm ready to be unleashed as fuck. Tired of the madness, done with the sadness. Gonna break free and be unleashed.
Hey, I'm Deidre Beecham, the Visibility Catalyst and recovering nice girl.
And I'm Jenny Badig, the Inner Space Engineer. And welcome to Unleashed AF Podcast, where we help you own your greatness and unleash your authentic self.
And I'm going to give you the topic teaser, but you have to understand, I knocked a whole bunch of stuff over right before we went live. So I'm sorry, we're a little discombobulated. We're okay, though. Here we go. Today, we're diving into reprogramming your limiting beliefs with practical tools tools? How many syllables was that? Practical tools to shift your mindset. And before we dive in, a little bit about each of us. I work with soulful women soulful women executives to recognize and obliterate their nice girl training, speak with their power voice, and get shit done.
Yes, and as an inner space engineer, drawing on my background as a human factors engineer and hypnotherapist, I help rewire your mindset so that you can unlock your true potential. And as always, we love hearing from you. So drop your thoughts and questions in the chat below the video, or, if you have a topic or question that you'd like to ask us, even outside of the live session. Oh, gosh,
knocking shit over before we get started just really, really messes with
yeah, discombobulates. Yeah.
Discombobulates.
So if you have a topic or question for us, not during the live broadcast, you can always go to our website, unleashedafpodcast.com, and go to the WWJDD page to submit that topic or question. That would be, what would Jenny and Deidre do? Yeah. So you can also apply on the website to be a guest. If you have a story that you'd like to share of how you've become unleashed, you can do that on our website as well. There's a guest application page right there too.
Awesome. Now we're going to get into today's topic, limiting beliefs. Oh my gosh. So we both know a lot about limiting beliefs. I know a lot of women have a lot of knowledge about limiting beliefs.
Yes.
But a limiting belief, I'm going to give my personal definition. I'd love to hear what your definition is, Jenny. I'm sure there's an all-encompassing definition, but of course we all come at it from our own places. But a limiting belief for me is anything that is in my head that is telling me that I can't do something that I obviously can. And a lot of times it's something that's in my subconscious. It can be something that I'm not even aware of, that's programmed inside of my head, that is a belief that I'm not even consciously thinking of, but is still there. And those for me are the most obnoxious ones, and the ones that these tools that we're going to talk about today will help you with. Jenny being one of those tools. I mean, not in a good way.
Oh, a tool.
But yeah, tell me what is your, and you probably have a more classic definition of limiting beliefs, but I'd love to hear what you have about limiting beliefs.
Well, I can tell you, when I work with clients, this is one of the things that I have them do in a first session, is I give them a list of limiting beliefs. And I wouldn't say that encompasses all limiting beliefs, but it's at least kind of a good thing to start with to see kind of where their mindset is. I can give you some examples of limiting beliefs. That might be the easiest way for people to identify what we're talking about.
Yeah, that'd be great.
The most common limiting belief that people identify with, I would say by far, is I'm not good enough. Or, can turn into I'm not worthy of whatever it is.
And another form of that same thing is, who am I? Who am I that they're going to listen to me? Why would anybody listen to me? That's all the same thing. Why would
Right.
anybody listen to me? Why would I
Yeah.
write that book? Would anybody even buy that?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it all kind of blends into unseen, unimportant, unlovable. But then there's also some other kind of variations of people that just feel they just believe that they're hopeless or helpless or powerless. So it's not necessarily always about just not being good enough. Sometimes it's like, well, I think I'm good enough. I just don't have the power to make it happen. So that can be a limiting belief as well. Really, anything that can get in the way of just full on belief that what you want to accomplish is possible can be a limiting belief.
And I think a lot of limiting beliefs for women, and I'll speak for myself and a lot of my clients, is shame. There's a shame that has been attached to something that either that you think or that you've done, and when the shame gets attached to that, it's suddenly we limit ourselves, uh,
Mhm.
consciously or subconsciously, and sometimes it starts out consciously and then just becomes a subconscious belief. What other
Yep.
what other ways have you found that, limiting beliefs are formed?
Oh gosh, there's so many influencers. We've talked a little bit the last couple of weeks about the different ways that um like our emotional intelligence is influenced, our self-image is influenced. And the limiting beliefs come along those same avenues as well. So it can be things from your family upbringing, it can be from your religious upbringing, it can be things that you've just seen like in society or on TV or whatever. And when you associate with something that has a limitation to it and you go, oh, I'm kind of like that, well, then you adopt that limiting belief about yourself. So it can come from really any direction. It can even come from within, even if there's not a direct external kind of pointer saying you're this way or you can't do this. It can even develop inside based on, gosh, so many things. A feeling
I
of
think
just being not strong enough or whatever.
I think it's really interesting too how limiting beliefs and people pleasing and imposter syndrome, um, nice girl trait, all of that, all of those things are so entrenched and intrinsically tied to one another.
Yep.
I don't think you can really talk about one without going, well, that's part of that too, and that's part of that. Because limiting
Hmm.
beliefs is really what people pleasing is really all about.
Hmm.
It's really what um, imposter syndrome is all about. Not
Hmm.
thinking that it's possible that this is you, that it's possible for you.
Right. Like limiting beliefs is sort of like ice cream, but there's all these different flavors of ice cream, right? So you just figure out which flavor you identify with or that you like to feed yourself, and that's where you end up.
Now, I have here in our notes, and I can't remember what this was from, and you were talking about the time it takes in the astronaut story. Is that about changing limiting beliefs?
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact that quite often limiting beliefs, like you said, whether we are physically or consciously aware of them or not, it takes quite a while for those to really sink in and get rooted. Typically, I mean, if you catch it early enough, great. It's easier to like pull that weed out. But
Mhm.
way more often, limiting beliefs can be kind of sprinkled in or seeded when we're young, when we don't even know that we're supposed to be
Oh,
limiting
yeah. And
beliefs.
that's what's so tough is that there's so many subconscious beliefs. I know that one of the things that made a huge difference for me, and we're going to go into some of the ways that you can help, again, this is about practical tools to help you to overcome these limiting beliefs. But I know for me, one of the things that was so significantly helpful was meditation and hypnotherapy. But I know that we're gonna go through some of these things. I think we have a list of six or 7 things that we can go through to,
Hmm.
change limiting beliefs, but you were talking about the time it takes to make changes. I know that one of the things that we talked about, was consistency, that being very consistent with whatever
Hmm.
you decide to do. Don't just do it a couple of times and then go, "Oh, that didn't work." And I think that's the astronaut story was about, right? Was sharing about that?
Consistency and sort of repetition tied into that
Okay.
as well. Yeah. So the thing, since we've talked about it, the astronaut story is that there was research that was done with astronauts before they started to send them into the International Space Station, because, of course, that was going to be a much longer time in space than what anybody had ever been before. Having just gone up in space shuttles, it would be maybe a week or two. I believe part of the concern was probably something along the lines of, will astronauts experience something like vertigo, or even a condition that we're not aware of on Earth? Because on Earth, we're used to certain things, at least in terms of visual cues. The ground is down, the sky is up, things like that. We can trust that that's true. But when you're in space and orbiting around the Earth, that's not going to be true anymore. So is that going to kind of screw up those basic assumptions that the mind goes with to figure out kind of how to operate? So they had them in this research study, they had them wear goggles that completely flipped everything upside down. So the ground was up and the sky was down, but they still had to kind of get around and do things throughout the day. So there were some really interesting things about what happened in this study, which is why I think it's important to kind of share it. But what they found was, within, I think it was 26 days was when the first change happened, and all of them had changed within 30 days. So after 26 days, at least one of the subjects in this experiment had the mind actually figured out that it needed to reflip the image to match what the other senses were kind of bringing in terms of what was where and what they needed to do. Within 30 days, all of the ones in the experiment who had kept the goggles on consistently, every time they opened their eyes, the goggles were on. So it was the consistent message of everything's upside down. So all of them within 30 days had figured out that they needed to reflip the image. And it wasn't that they consciously figured this out. This just happened. So
I think you're also saying that, if they also found that if they did it for like 5 days or something, and then they took it off and then did it again, they'd still have to do another 30 days.
Yeah.
Right. It's like it stops.
Right. Well, I think
Progress.
To me, the thing that makes sense is if that new message that's coming in, like, oh, everything's upside down, gets fixed on its own, then the subconscious doesn't really have to do anything. It'll say, it'll work itself out. I don't need to step in here. I'm just going to wait until it kind of figures itself out. But it gets to a certain point where it's like, okay, I'm going to have to step in. This is too much. Like, we can't keep going this way. I'm going to go ahead and fix it myself. So yeah, that's the thing about being inconsistent with the new message, is the subconscious may not, and it's not even, we don't have to limit it to just the subconscious, but the mind may not be able to figure out or decide to make a change because it's kind of thinking, it'll work itself out. So that's significant to me. And one of the things that I also thought was interesting about that process or that experiment was, if they would have only done that, and who knows, maybe somebody had done this experiment before and only did it for like 2 weeks, no change. They would have just thrown it away and said, doesn't really affect people at all, because there was literally no change until 26 to 30 days. So sometimes it may not feel like something that you're doing is making a difference, but you want to keep doing it. Just like, gosh, there's so many things out there that talk about, if you want to change a habit or behavior, you got to do it. Sometimes people say 20 days. Some people say 30 days, whatever. It can be different depending on the habit and the situation around it. But definitely repetition and consistency are two keys to really getting things to be a whole different way that feels natural. So anything that was sort of felt automatic pilot, but it's not going the direction you want it to, if you want the automatic pilot to switch to something else, it's going to take repetition and consistency to get it there.
And that's the hard part, is just doing that consistently. But let's and because there has to be a good reason for it. And if you have a good reason for it, then you can do it. But let's go ahead and get started with the, I think we have 6 different things, 6, maybe 7 different things to talk about. So we talked about the first thing being self-awareness, that you have to be self-aware. Yeah. And there's so many different ways to be self-aware. I know the hardest part for me when I first started on this journey is just sitting still with myself and being aware of what I was thinking and getting to the point where I could be aware of what I was thinking even when I was busy and not just when I was quiet and calm, or being able to stop myself when I was starting to spiral so that I could stop and become aware and start working on that. Do you have any tips or tricks on how to do that aside from what we've just talked about?
Well, I would say self-awareness in terms of your limiting beliefs can be, it's like a layered thing, right? You can be aware of how you feel about something. That's a little easier for us to do.
Mhm.
The level below that sometimes is to figure out, well, what's making me feel this way? Am I not getting my needs met? Am I feeling like, underappreciated or disrespected? Or, like sometimes you have to go that level down. First is, what am I feeling? What am I dealing with right now? And making that in your conscious awareness. Then you can kind of go, okay, underneath that, what's causing that? What's the driver behind it? And sometimes it's those unmet needs that are a little easier to figure out. Well, if this was happening, I'd feel a lot better. So I need more of that to happen. But when we go even deeper, maybe why do I need so much of that? That's when you can maybe figure out, okay, this is a belief system that I'm dealing with here. And especially if it seems like it's something that is kind of showing up across different areas of your life, or seeming to repeat in patterns, that's when you really want to try to dig down deep to the belief level of what's driving your emotions and your behaviors. So sometimes it's just a matter of taking a moment and trying to document what you're dealing with. If you can
Yeah.
pull
I
yourself out of the emotion of the situation and do a little self-assessment, that can be helpful. Or even ask people around you, people that you know and trust, what their perspective is, and see if they can help you at least get a little closer to figuring out what may be true for you.
Yeah, and journaling, I know that,
Yeah.
you talked about documenting, but, journaling, just sitting down and allowing yourself to just write and figure things out and get deeper. It's amazing how much can be revealed to you
Hmm.
just by sitting down quietly with yourself and journaling.
Hmm. And
Even if you
sometimes
don't
the
even if you don't have a
journaling,
topic in mind.
yeah, the journaling can help easily reveal the things that are going through your mind in terms of what you're feeling or why you're
Mhm.
reacting certain ways. But when you go back and read multiple journaling entries, that's where you can really start to maybe figure out that there's a pattern or there's an underlying belief system that seems to be coming up, and linking those different situations, together kind of at a root level. That's a great way to try to figure things out.
Yeah, absolutely. And and then after we were talking about self-awareness, and that's a great tool, for helping to get rid of limiting beliefs. We also talked about your surroundings, and there's so much to this. There's so
Yep.
much to this. In, what was it? In sales, one of the things we talked about is that you can judge your income and where you're going to be as a salesperson based on the income level of your friends.
Hmm.
And, when I first heard that, I was like, "Oh, that's so harsh." But it's true, and it's also
Hmm.
true when it comes to your, limiting beliefs. If you're around people who have limiting beliefs as well, or are trying to instill those limiting beliefs or keep you small, then those limiting beliefs are really, really difficult to tackle.
Yep.
So surrounding yourself with people who are positive and think the sky's the limit and think awesome things of you, uh, make a big difference.
Right. Or even going back to, if you see yourself in those around you, then put yourself in a
Mm,
place where you're around people how you want to see yourself. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It can kind of influence in both ways. I think about
yeah,
people that work maybe, low income jobs, and that's who they're around all the times. And it becomes like a hamster wheel for people. They
mhm,
just don't feel like they can get off, because that's what they're doing, and it's what everybody around them is doing. They live in neighborhoods around other people who are doing low income
Mhm.
things, and it's extremely difficult to come out of that.
Yeah, one
And
of
it,
the things I like to talk to people about also is their what I call their personal algorithm, which
mhm,
is, because all the social media platforms have an algorithm. So you get to decide what your algorithm is. So if you pick up your phone and the things that you're looking at are depressing, negative, hateful, discouraging, limiting, small, all of those things, change your algorithm. You
yep,
know, start looking up, do a search for something that you want. So those types of things start coming up in your feed if you're going to do some doom scrolling, at least doom scroll some things
yeah,
that help you to rise up and help your vibration to rise up rather than squashing you.
yeah,
Yeah, it's not just
yeah,
people.
right. Yeah, and I've dealt with this, on a personal level. My parents are going through some health issues right now, and
Mhm.
there's depression weaved into that because they're aging, they're feeling like their world is getting smaller, and every day is just about, well, what kind of ache or pain am I dealing with today, or something like that. And so when I was visiting them, I was showing them how to use a smart TV, and pointed out that they could go to, if they feel like, there's nothing good on TV, they can go to YouTube and
Mhm.
search on something that would make them happy and watch that instead. So there's even ways that you can do that if you're not necessarily physically around other people, that can make a difference, or even if you're not in social media per se, like on Facebook or on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, but you can create your own happy stuff
Yes.
using happy music. You can go, listen to songs that are going to make you happy. You can go watch videos that are either going to make you laugh or feel joy in some way. That's one of the things that's kind of nice about technology today. We have so much better access
Oh, wow,
to
yeah.
things like that now than we used to. We don't always think to use it or to call on it, but my gosh, it's at our fingertips.
Oh, it's crazy. And it's crazy. Just before we started this show, I realized I hadn't gotten the video that we wanted to show about perspective, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. And I mean, I did a search for 15 seconds and downloaded the video and uploaded it, and we're going to show it to you in a moment. That's crazy. The things really are at your fingertips, but the desire has to be there to
Yeah.
search for it and want to make the change.
Yeah.
Um, Is there anything else you wanted to add about surroundings? We're going to go on to number 3.
No, I think let's move on to number 3, and that kind of leads right into that video, right?
Yeah, reframing and perspective, because you can reframe an experience. You can change your perspective. And my wife and I are kind of having a little argument about this right now because it's a silly little thing, but we have a road. Did I tell you this story? Did I
Yes.
tell you the
Yeah.
story? So we have this road, right? And it's 98, doesn't matter. But there's this road and it's just north of us. And it connects from one end of town west to the east. It all the way. And we live again south of it. And every time we go up to the road, my wife wants to turn right or east to go to Durham, but Durham's west. But for some reason in her head, we live north of this road. And so every time we come to it, that's why she wants to go right, because she thinks that that is the correct way. And it's she won't change her perspective, and it's driving me crazy. Like, okay, that's not what we're talking about.
Right.
Reframing, but reframing, you can reframe. And I have a quick story about this. I know I just had a story, but I had a quick story about this. Um, I have I was with somebody who was um, my reaction to them was, "Oh my gosh, you you think this about me," or "You every time I'm around you, you're this way and this happens." And I realized that once I changed my perspective of what was happening, once I reframed it to understand that what I was experiencing was my own issues. I was experiencing my own insecurities, my own lack of, just defiantly loving myself. It just wasn't there. And so because I wasn't defiantly loving myself, it was very easy for this person to pick at all those places. And I took that. And so I'm grateful because I have done all of this work and I was able to reframe that, change my perspective, realize, oh my gosh, that's me, not this person, that's me. And once I did the work, I realized that the only way in this particular circumstance, not all circumstances, but in this particular circumstance, it meant that I needed to shield myself. And that's on me. So many times we're going to go, oh, but that person, or this situation, or, oh my gosh, I'm broke because of this situation. And I know these are hard words to hear, especially when you're in the thick of it. But it all comes back to you. It's not the situation. It's your framing of reality.
Right.
And to prove the point, I'm going to bring up this video. And while I'm doing that, if there's anything you want to pull up, while I'm pulling this up.
Well, the thing that just came to my mind as you said that was when we're pointing our finger at someone else, there's 3 fingers pointing back at us. And that's usually a pretty good thing to make yourself aware of or remind yourself of when you are pointing the finger at someone else. And what's my role in this?
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about being triggered, if you are a person that gets triggered a lot, or you get triggered in occasions, or somebody triggers you, that is always an indication of something you have to work on. That's always an indication of something you have to work on. Wow. That took me a long time to understand and to completely wrap my head around, but that's true.
And sometimes the thing that you have to work on is realizing that you just need to remove yourself from that person.
That is also true.
Yeah.
Let me pull this up. This is about perspective. So from the front of this piece of artwork, it looks like a square, but as you see, changing our perspective, it changes and we get totally on the other side and it's a circle. So depending on which angle you looked at that piece of art, we actually saw at least 2 different things. We saw a square and a circle, but then from the side, it looked like something completely different. It didn't look like a square or a circle. And I think we see so much of that right now in because the atmosphere is charged with politics right now. But this can also happen in your own life where you're seeing things one way. Somebody else is saying, somebody else is like, I'm looking at it from over here. It's a square. And you're going, it's a circle. And somebody else is going, no, I'm voting third party because I see,
right. I see this curved line. I see a parentheses.
Line. And you're like, we don't give a shit about your curved line. It's a square or a circle. Anyway.
Right.
So your perspective can be everything. And by reframing, by just changing how you see something or changing your view of it, even looking at something in your past and changing how you look at something from your past can absolutely change how you view yourself now.
Yep.
Anything else you wanted to add on that?
Well, I would say it is, I think, a good thing to consider when you are at complete opposite odds on some issue with someone where for you it's a square, for them it's a circle, or vice versa, to try to see things from their perspective. Not that you have to change your mind, but to at least get to the point where you understand why they see it as a circle. Then it reduces the charge around the disagreement, right? And you can go, okay, well, they're not going to move from where they are. And from where they are, it does look like a circle. But I'm also not going to move from where I am. And from where I am, it is a square. So now we just kind of agree to disagree. The other thing that made me think of was, I remember years ago, my mom was watching one of the Sunday morning news shows, and they had a priest, a rabbi, and some other religious leader. I can't remember who it was, probably Muslim or something like that. And she said, I realized that they were all really saying the same thing, just using different ways to say it. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's the truth. So it comes up a lot in politics. It also comes up a lot in religion, in different
Hmm.
perspectives. But when you boil it down, it's really like the same thing, and we're fighting kind of for no apparent reason. So
Exactly.
yeah, perspective is a huge thing to be aware of. Like
Hmm.
we said, you don't need to change your perspective just to match someone else's to get along, but to understand that there are different perspectives and they can be valid based on where they come from.
Yeah, absolutely. And for some reason, you're over there and you need to be over here. Okay. Suddenly my screens went like this, and I'm like, where are you?
I'm jumping on you, ninja.
Jumping on me. So the next thing we've done self-awareness, changing your surroundings, reframing, and changing your perspective on something. 4, hypnotherapy. I just, I'm a firm believer, Jenny, and
Mm-hmm.
of course Jenny is a hypnotherapist. Jenny has helped me, and you, and while Jenny is great in person, I highly recommend her. She also has meditation tapes, hypnotherapy tapes. You can also
Mm-hmm.
go online and find hypnotherapists,
Mm-hmm.
but there's so much value in that, and also guided meditations, and it's not quite
Mm-hmm.
the same thing as hypnotherapy, but it has that ability to make
Mm-hmm.
changes for you.
Yeah,
So
and one of the
tell
reasons
us
I
a little
think,
bit about why it works so well.
yeah, exactly. One of the reasons we thought it was important to point that out was a good part. Well, different hypnotherapists may do things differently, but certainly the way I work with clients is I absolutely use repetition and consistency within the hypnotherapy work that we do, which helps to shift those limiting beliefs. So, a hypnotic recording, particularly if it's customized and personalized for
Mhm.
you, can make huge differences in how you end up seeing things, what
Yeah.
your perspective is, how you see yourself, which can be one of the harder things to transform.
Yeah, I
It
know. I
can,
Mhm.
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I know one of the things for myself, I knew I mean, I had a pretty good sense of self-worth. I knew I was very talented. I knew that I was capable of incredible things, but I could not change the tapes in my head that would tell me otherwise. And I would battle them and battle them and battle them, and it felt very hopeless. And that's why I'm such a huge proponent of this, because it absolutely helped to change. And the beautiful thing is you can do this while you sleep. I mean, I put headphones on, not big, bulky headphones, but I put headphones on and would listen to my hypnotherapy tape that Jenny customized for me, along with other meditations. And these were actually just subliminal messages that were playing over and over and over
Mhm.
again. And it's just made such a significant difference in my life, and if I'm without it for a few days, I know my iPod broke. Yeah, I still had one of the old iPods from I don't know how many years ago, a couple of decades now. But I had one of those old iPods, and I replaced it, and the mean for a few days, I wasn't able to listen to it at night, and I could tell a difference, not immediately, but after a few days, I could tell a difference that I was just kind of slowly lowering my vibration. I was like, "Ooh, I don't like that."
Mhm.
It makes a significant difference, and it's all happening while I'm asleep and on a subconscious level. It's fascinating to me
Yeah.
how powerful that is.
Yeah. And the thing, there are so many different ways that you can influence your subconscious. Like you said, guided meditations is another way that can kind of get in there and redirect things. Really, repetition is a big part of influencing the subconscious for sure. And hypnosis in general really is just defined as communicating with your subconscious. Hypnotherapy is communicating with your subconscious for therapeutic benefit. So that's why we bring that up as a main way to do it. There are other techniques, NLP, EMT, like, all kinds of different ways that can help influence that. But this is just a good way to sort of explain how it works. There are certainly interactive hypnotherapy protocols as well that can go in and help you kind of pull out the roots of that limiting self-belief, figure out where it came from. Like where one way I describe it to clients is like in a regression protocol, for example, we're going to try to follow the gas line back to see where the leak is coming from. And that's where we have to fix the issue. That's what's causing the flare up of issues today, is some old leak way back in the gas line. So, lots of different ways of doing that with different hypnotherapy protocols and things like that. But again, the keys are consistency, repetition, and just being open to digging some of that stuff out. Another thing I talk to clients about is a hot air balloon analogy, right? So some people just need to maybe say positive affirmations to themselves. That's the hot air that goes into the hot air balloon. They'll say positive things and magically their balloon just up and away, goes where they want it to. But if that isn't working for you on its own, then we need to do some digging around. We need to figure out if there's sandbags around the basket of that balloon that we need to, kind of toss off so that your balloon can rise up. Or are there anchors? That's really what I feel like the self-limiting beliefs are the anchors that are holding that balloon down. So even if you're doing your best and, have your own mantra that you're saying every day, that's a positive, uplifting kind of thing, but you're still not getting anywhere, it's not because you're not good enough. It's not because you don't have the willpower to make the change. There's just an anchor that you're not aware of that you need to, cut away.
And daily affirmations is actually our number 5 on the list, because daily affirmations, they absolutely do work. But like Jenny was saying, if they're not working for you, definitely get more help. I pulled up, let me see if I can pull it up right here on my YouTube channel, which is just youtube.com and then / @Deidre Beecham. If you go on there is a section called Vibes and Visions, Music and Meditations for Transformation, and it'll at least give you a start. I have description on each one of the playlists, and pretty much if I don't like somebody's voice or I'm just not getting the vibe, they're not on the list. So it doesn't, you may get on the list and go, I don't like any of these people. That's fine. These are mine. Right? These are ones that I have found that work for me. I'm just letting you know that it's there because it's if you're not sure where to start, it's at least a starting point. Or of course you go to which one do you want up, Jenny? For you,
hypnotherapybyjenny.com.
So, or go to Hypnotherapy by Jenny if you want a customized hypnotherapy tape. We don't call them. They're not tapes, right?
Yeah.
It's an MP3.
For those younger viewers, what Grandma Deidre's talking about.
Grandma Deidre.
Old technology.
That tape. MP3, right? You can get an MP3, a customized MP3 from Jenny at Hypnotherapy by Jenny. If you want to,
you don't even have to rewind it with your pencil eraser,
and you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to just stick it in and go. All right. So we briefly touched on daily affirmations. There's so many places you can get affirmations. There are websites. My gosh, you can go to any of the AI things. Just go, I need some affirmations about this, and it'll spit some out for you. But you do want to make sure, as Jenny was saying, repeat it. Look at them look at them over and over and over. Just like the astronaut example, you can do it for 20 days and go, wow, this isn't working. But at 26, it may have. At day 30, it may have, because that consistency just wasn't in place.
Yeah. And truly
give it a chance.
The more senses you get involved with those daily affirmations, the better they're going to sink in. So daily affirmation can be something that you say out loud. It can be something that you write every day. So physically your hand is writing it out. It can be something that you listen to, and it can be something that you see. So if you just have it on like a little Post-it note or something, we have some positive things around the house here, so that even though we're not, here's an interesting thing about the subconscious. We're consciously aware of only a limited amount of stuff that we deal with every day. But our subconscious actually is retaining information that the eyes and the ears and all the senses send it, even if we're not consciously doing anything with that at the moment, but it's in the subconscious. So the more you can see something positive, even if you're just walking by it,
Yes,
subconscious is getting it. Or if
absolutely.
you hear something positive, like even if it's the song at the grocery store that's playing in the background, you don't need to know exactly what the song is, but if it's a positive, uplifting song, that can
Oh,
make
it
a
makes a
difference.
huge difference. Yeah, I have, on my I'm pointing to my computer, like, you know what I'm pointing to. So I'm on my computer, on each screen, I have 2 screens, and on each one, I have sayings that just rotate. This one on this side right now says, "Do it for the ripple effect." The one over here says, "Be brave, your people are waiting for you." So, and that'll change before we finish this podcast. Those are going to change, and there'll be something else. So we practice what we're talking about. we practice this stuff because it really does work.
Yeah.
Just changing your limiting belief and going, I got rid of that one. I don't have to do that stuff anymore. Trust me, there's more. There's always other levels to get to.
Yeah.
I remember and I've said this before. My friend Shamika, she says, new level is not a new devil. It's the same devil. It's just a different level of the same devil. And so, don't beat yourself up just because oh my gosh, because I used to do that. I would beat myself up. I'd be, oh my gosh, I'm doing so much better now. And then this thing would come, and then this thing would come up against me again. I'd be like, I thought I dealt with that. Yeah. But now you're at a different level.
Right.
And you have to deal with that thing at this new level. It's just
Yep.
how it happens. So we have our 6th one here, which I like to call visualization on speed, which is future casting. And once, for me, I think that once I was able to settle my nervous system down, because my nervous system was so riddled with anxiety from my past, once I was able to get that anxiety down, future casting probably made the quickest changes for me in my life, because I wrote down who I wanted to be, where I wanted to be at a certain period of time, wrote it all down, and then I just started seeing myself as that person. And this person I described, which was me in the future, and I looked at, well, what is a perfect day like? And even though those weren't my days, I just started trying to do those days. And I would make decisions based on that person, not the person I was in that moment, which it really starts messing with your psyche. So because, it's like, okay, my initial reaction would be to do this. I'm like, no, because I'm not that person. Today, I am this person. And what decision would I make as that person? And then you make that decision. And the more you do that, the more you become this future version of yourself, this leveled up version of yourself, and not because you're faking it, but you truly are doing it. And this is the same thing that Olympic athletes do. They do the same thing. They visualize their entire. I probably should let you talk about that. I'm sure that was on your mind because you're such an Olympic fan. But they visualize their entire. You'll see Simone Biles on the side. And she's going through her whole routine, or a skier.
Or a swimmer.
Right. They're going through the whole thing in their head. They're visualizing, and they're visualizing themselves winning. They're visualizing themselves being successful. They're visualizing good things. You can absolutely alter your reality doing this.
Yeah.
And alter your health.
Yeah. And one of the most powerful exercises I've gone through related to future visualization was when I was at a business seminar kind of thing. And first they had us take a few minutes to just write a letter to our future selves.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so you write a letter to yourself, whether it's a year in the future, 3 years, 5 years, whatever you want to do in terms of what your goals are and how long you feel it'll take you to get there. But You write a letter to that future self, kind of congratulating yourself. And then the thing that was even more powerful, like I think that was maybe the first time I'd done that even, but then they said, okay, now we want you to get up and mingle like you're at a business function or, like a networking event, but you're going to introduce yourself as that 5 years from now person who's already gotten there. You've already achieved, what you're wanting to achieve, what you've got on your goal list and things like that. And I want you to act as if you are that person 5 years from now. And that I found extremely powerful. Because to write it down was one thing, but then to get up and introduce myself as that person really took it to a whole nother level. So it kind of goes into what you're talking about. It's not necessarily faking it. It's more convincing yourself that it feels okay, that you actually do fit in to that goal and that mindset.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. This is a really great show. And we'd want to make sure you also are aware we are not, sometimes things are outside of the realm of you being able to handle them on your own. It may be that you need to hire a professional, and it may be as simple as working with a hypnotherapist or working with a coach. It may be that you need a therapist. Do not don't do yourself a disservice by going, I don't know if I need. If you need the help, get the help.
Yep.
Get the help. There is no shame in that.
That's right.
We want you around and doing great things. If you enjoyed today's episode, please spread the word. Tell your friends, subscribe, follow, share. And don't forget to visit us at www.jdd on our website, unleashedafpodcast.com. That's What Would Jenny and Deidre Do? If you have a topic suggestion, question, or if you want to be a guest. And then I think, Jenny, you have our voting information.
Yes. We have found a lot of good information in terms of educating yourself before this upcoming election. First of all, everyone needs to, at this point, probably make sure that you are registered, because there's been some monkeying around with voter registrations and things like that in certain areas. So you should be able to go to your local voting registration website, check your information, make sure that you're still active on the voting polls or rolls. And then once you're sure that you're legit to vote, make sure you educate yourself, not only on the topics at a national level, but even in your area. So the League of Women Voters tends to do a really nice job of breaking things down and making them easy to understand in terms of what a certain amendment is about or what it really addresses or whatever. And of course, commercials can be extremely misleading because they're all motivated in whatever direction they're telling you on the commercial through the money that's being paid for that ad. So League of Women Voters is not something that is sponsored by one party or the other. So it's a fairly independent perspective on things. And there may be some others out there too, but this is the one that I typically have used over the years and feel pretty confident.
And for those of you that are listening, that's lwv.org, lwv.org.
Yeah. And from there, I think you can find, like at that point, it will show you federal level stuff, but I think you can look for like your own, I don't know if it's by state or regions within a state. I can't remember how it's broken down, but you can get your local election information as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for finding that information and putting it up for us. So next week, our topic is From Stuck to Unstuck, real life stories of mental transformation. And we really look forward to you joining us then. So take care. And until next week, get unleashed AF.
I'm done trying to live up to others' expectations. Family, society, class, race, sex, or religions. It's time to break free from the isms that make us feel like we're in prison. I'm ready to be